Could Manchester United finish in the top 4 by the end of the campaign? Hey guys, I'm back to your channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, it's a question I've been posing for a couple of days now in regards to Manchester United. But could they genuinely finish within the top 4 for this season? Top 4 is definitely going to get you Champions League football for next season. There is obviously the case that maybe the top 5 in the Premier League will, depending on all this kind of all these European football places and everything, and obviously depending on if England finish high enough, they may be able to get a 5th spot in that Champions League campaign for next season. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that it is going to be 4 spots rather than 5 that England are going to get for the Champions League for the next campaign. Will Manchester United fill that spot? I personally think the top 3 are pretty much set in stone in regards to they are finishing within the top 3. Arsenal obviously occupy 1st right now, Liverpool are 2nd, Manchester City are currently 3rd. Now, whether or not that is going to be the way that it finishes or not, I don't know, remains to be seen, of course, but I do think those 3 are set in stone as to being within the top 4 for this season. But that 4th spot is still very much up for grabs. And after this weekend, in which both Tottenham and Aston Villa both dropped points, Manchester United have a game in hand over Aston Villa, 9 points away from the top 4. And given the fact that they look very good against Liverpool on Sunday, given the fact that they have got the likes of Rasmus Højlund back from injury, and given the fact that they have a pretty favourable run-in from now until the end of the campaign, could they really fancy their chances of maybe turning their season around just that little bit by maybe getting a top 4 spot? We're going to be looking at Manchester United. We're going to talk about the game on Sunday. We're going to be talking about a little bit about the running as well from now to the end of the campaign. But without further, but obviously, as always, hit the like button and subscribe if you are new. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated. Also, get involved in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think and feel in the comment section down below. Your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings. I'm sure we'll all make for interesting and great reading on this particular topic. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's get on. We'll talk about Manchester United and a potential race for top 4, which is pretty much on for them, if I am to be completely honest. Look, I am a Liverpool fan and I'm still angry and annoyed, more so with my own team, about Sunday's performance. But with all videos like this, when I'm talking about rival teams, I will always try and be fair, neutral and honest when it comes to giving my predictions and giving my takes on things. And like I say, I've been asking this question for a couple of days now. Ever since Tottenham lost, and lost quite humiliatingly to Fulham at the weekend, I posed the question, could Manchester United fall arse backwards into that top 4 position? Now, it's a little bit of a joke in there. There's a little bit of, could that really happen though in there? Because although United have been very inconsistent this season, although for the most part they have been pretty poor for the majority of the campaign, they've still got a decent opportunity to finish within the top 4, which would guarantee them Champions League football for next season. That is a possibility. And I go back on this and I say, like, Erik ten Hag hasn't exactly filled himself in much glory this season. I think they took a bit of a backward step. And I think the only way that they're going to get top 4 is because one of the 2 teams above them in Tottenham and Aston Villa are going to bottle it. But I still think there is something with this manager. Now, whether or not it's enough to keep him going forward in terms of obviously a new era at Manchester United with the whole takeover and everything, that is probably a different debate. But as far as this season goes, to say that he's obviously dealt with numerous amounts of injuries, to say that obviously he's dealt with off-pitch incidents and other things of that nature, to say that he's got United in a decent enough position to fight for the top 4, I think is still a good job. It's not the best job. It's not the job that obviously he was expected to do. But again, last season, when you look back at it, they jumped the gun a little bit because no one was expecting to get top 4 last season. No one was expecting to get Champions League last season. So I think maybe being a little bit of a victim of his own success there, if you can call it success, by getting back into the top 4, it may have played its part. Now, I think over the course of this season, I think what you've seen is a lot of tactical and a lot of other issues that may not have been handled in the best way. may not have been dealt with in the best way, and I think that's why it's got some people questioning whether or not this guy is the right guy for the Man United job. From the outside looking in, I said earlier on in the season that I think personally he's a little bit overhyped, and I think in hindsight we've now seen he was a little bit overhyped from his time at Ajax, but I also think that he's been shackled a little bit by the way that he seems not to be willing to go against the protocols of the club that are calling for a different style of play than what he was employed for. And I think that it'd be best for everybody if they went their separate ways, because then he can go to a club that is going to want him to play the kind of football that he showed at Ajax, and United can then get someone that's going to play their way and not exactly be as stubborn as what he was seemingly trying to be to the public eye, in terms of obviously revealing these kinds of things and saying he's not playing this brand of football, and obviously buying these types of players that are kind of signed off by him but not playing the kind of football he wants, that kind of thing. In terms of obviously the top four, look, Sunday was a massive game for Manchester United, and it kept their season alive in so many ways. Not just in terms of obviously the potential of silverware at the end of the season, but in terms of giving them something to hang on to and hang their hats on, that maybe the top four isn't out the realms of possibility this season. Did I think Man United played well? Yes. In key moments of the game, I think they did. I think obviously Liverpool, being Liverpool, controlled a large part of the second half and obviously the final 15 minutes of the first half. But I think when United needed to come on strong, that's when they came on strong. It leaves them now with a big possibility of ending the season with some silverware. I can't see a world in which they don't beat Coventry, as much as I want and I pray for a David versus Goliath encounter, and obviously David to come out on top. David obviously being Coventry in this scenario, and I hope for an upset in the semi-final. They are at least making it to the final. After that, you know, if City get there, I can't see a world in which City don't win. If Chelsea get there, it's a toss of a coin, and it's whichever one is going to bottle it the most. There's a good chance that they get some silverware at the end of the season. No doubt about it. In terms of the top four, there's a good chance that they might get that as well. I look at Tottenham and I look at Aston Villa. Aston Villa have performed above expectation. They've been incredible this season. I'm not taking anything away from Aston Villa. But maybe their squad may not be big enough for the rest of the challenge. They've, of course, got the Europa Conference League as well to focus on. So maybe, again, their eye may be on a trophy more than a top four finish or a top five finish, maybe. And obviously, it really does depend on this whole commission spot thing and whether or not the top five is actually going to get into the top four, or is actually going to get into the Champions League for next season. Because if it does, then it might mean Aston Villa maybe can take their eye off the ball a little bit, but not too much, to the fact that they may just creep in through that top five spot rather than the top four. Tottenham may also feel the same way. Tottenham's problem is, I think they've got a much more difficult run-in than the other two. And it's Tottenham. When the pressure is on, Tottenham bottle it. As seen at the weekend. The pressure was really on. Because obviously Tottenham last week performed very well against Aston Villa. A top four rival to, of course, get a huge victory over them. And now people were looking at them and saying they've got the momentum to go forward. They've got this. They've got that. They have got everything that it takes to maybe break into that top four and get Champions League football back at Tottenham for the following campaign. And then they went ahead and they absolutely flopped. They flopped against Fulham, of all teams. They flopped against Marco Silva's side, and they got heavily dominated, beaten and embarrassed at Craven Cottage for your Saturday evening viewing. United have got a game in hand over Aston Villa. They are 9 points off. And they have, in my opinion, a favourable run-in. With the exception of two games in particular. Now, one of them games is Liverpool at home. Now, of course, Liverpool going for the Premier League title. I'm expecting and hoping for a better Liverpool performance on that day when we actually do meet again. I'm expecting and hoping that Liverpool will be much more on it than what they were. I expect them to have deal with the atmosphere and everything that's going to go into that game, and such a huge game. And I'm hoping and praying that Liverpool get the job done this time, rather than bottle it like we did on Sunday. But that doesn't mean it's not entirely there for the taking for Man United either. In these types of scenarios, I've seen a worse Liverpool team go to Old Trafford and actually beat United when they were in their pomp and at the peak of their powers. So who's to say that that can't happen again, but this time in 90 minutes rather than over the course of 120 minutes. It's still there for the taking for both of those sides. And the second game, of course, is going to be Arsenal. Now, depending on how the Premier League title race is going to fare out and everything, that could be a huge game as well. Obviously, if the Premier League title race isn't tied up by then, and obviously Arsenal are still within that title race, then that is going to be an extremely difficult game for United to contend with as well. But when I look at what United have coming up in terms of fixtures, Brentford, winnable. Chelsea, winnable. Then you've got Liverpool, of course. Bournemouth, winnable. You've got the Newcastle game, which is going to be rearranged because of the FA Cup semi-final. Certainly winnable because of how inconsistent Newcastle have been this season. Burnley, probably going to be relegated by the time they meet at the end of April. Winnable. Crystal Palace, certainly winnable. Then you've got Arsenal on the penultimate game of the season. And then to round the season off, you will go against Brighton. In my opinion, it's certainly there for the taking. And although that Brighton game can be tricky, I wouldn't still put it past Man United to go and beat Brighton to secure it if the top 4/top 5 race goes down to the wire. So I think it's certainly there for the taking as far as what Manchester United are concerned. I think they're going to need to keep their big name players fit, the likes of obviously Bruno Fernandes, Rasmus Højlund definitely. I know that he obviously had a bit of a tough game on Sunday in the hour long I think that he played, but obviously coming back to fitness and everything. So as sooner he gets back up to speed and is firing on all cylinders like he was just before his injury, the better as far as what United are concerned. Obviously, I pray and I hope they don't get there. I don't want the best for United whatsoever, but if I am going to be neutral, if I'm going to be fair and honest, like I always try to be in these types of videos, United, for me, I've got a very good chance. And like I say, with outside interferences happening for the likes of Aston Villa in terms of the Europa Conference League, and with Tottenham being, well, Spursy, it's certainly there for the taking as far as Manchester United are concerned. And they can take what they did on Sunday and they can build on that, and they can put that as a platform that they can certainly grow from and build upon. Not every game is going to have the high stakes as that one did on Sunday, and I feel like that's what that's where my caveat is to this. We have seen United time and time again, whenever they've got a result this season, everyone seems to think, right, they'll kick on. They'll kick on from this point and they'll put together a bit of a run and they'll start to go again. And then they have flopped again the game after. Whether it be a big win against like a Chelsea or a big win against an Aston Villa or whatever, they seem to go on and flop again the week later, whether it's to the likes of, losing to Bournemouth or losing to West Ham or whoever it was. They seem to flop every time they pick up something good. A lot of people are obviously hoping that this time around it's different and they can go on some sort of run. I do exercise caution, and I do implore you to exercise caution with this, because not every game is going to be like this one. Not every game is going to be obviously have the high stakes, high intensity, and the atmosphere especially of a Manchester United versus Liverpool. Your next game is against Brentford. It's not going to have that same intensity. It's not going to have that same atmosphere, but they have to try and keep consistent as possible. So there is that to kind of consider, the intensity and atmospheric aspect of the kind of games that are coming up for Manchester United. But there's no doubt about it. Like I say, I reiterate the point in my mind yet again. There's no doubt about it in my mind that they certainly can leave this season Not just with the potential of winning a trophy, but also with top 4 and a Champions League place booked for next season in the bag for the following campaign. And then afterwards you go into the summer and then you can start then asking questions. Is Ten Hag the right guy for the job, or has he reached his ceiling? What about the players? What about the coaching staff? What about a new manager? All of that kind of good stuff is then what is going to have to follow in the summer. I pray and I hope United don't get there. I pray and I hope they continue to be down in the mud. But like I say, I'll always be open and honest when it comes to these kinds of things. And for me personally, if I was to put money on it right now, I'm probably backing United to get into the Champions League for next season. The only question really is obviously, and it's kind of out of United's hands, is whether or not it will be through a top 4 or top 5 position. For argument's sake, let's go with just the top 4 as we know it. I personally think they can actually get there. I personally do believe they can actually get there. If they carry on the kind of performance that they showed against Liverpool, if they can put that together on a more consistent and more frequent basis from now until the end of the season, when you consider the FA Cup games they've got coming up as well to add more fuel to the fire, when you consider the games that they have coming up in the Premier League, which are, barring 2, are very much winnable, I can't put it against them. I can't put it against them. They haven't been that convincing this season. Admittedly, they've been hit and miss. But what we do know about this side is that they grind out results when they need them most. And obviously, going forward, they will need them more than ever. So, going forward, like I say, I'm actually putting money on. I'm actually saying United will get the top 4 ahead of Villa and Spurs, and I think at worst they will get top 5, in which potentially could open the door to Champions League or at worst Europa League, but obviously that will all remain to be seen come the end of the season. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Manchester United this season, and do you think top 4 is very much on for the Red Devils come the end of the campaign? Do you think they'll get there? Do you think they'll get Champions League some other way through the top 5 or anything along those lines? Do you think they'll win the FA Cup? Do you think they'll get knocked out by Coventry? Or do you think they'll become runners-up for the 2nd season in a row? Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on Manchester United down below in the comment section. It's your lot if interesting and great reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way out. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll speak to you all again very, very soon.